Hello, friend, and welcome to the Sleepy Meteorologist. Tonight, we're drifting into the calm and comforting world of thunderstorms. Not the loud, dramatic kind that fill the skies with urgency, but the softened version. The one where distant rumbles sound like sleepy drums echoing far away, and lightning flickers softly on the horizon, like the sky gently blinking goodnight. There's something quietly beautiful about a storm when it stays just out of reach. When the wind hushes, when the air thickens just enough to hold a thought, and when the sky, instead of roaring, simply hums its lullaby across the clouds. Maybe your day has been full, or maybe you just need a little space to breathe. Whatever brought you here, I'm glad you've arrived. How's the sky looking where you are tonight? Can you hear the hush between the clouds? If you enjoy these quiet journeys through the atmosphere, you're welcome to subscribe, only if it feels restful to do so. Now let's slow the pace. Let the air soften. Let's begin. All thunderstorms begin not with a bang, but with a breath. A breath so quiet, so gentle, that the sky barely seems to notice it at first. It begins with warmth. The sun has softly touched the earth all day, and now that warmth lingers near the surface. Invisible to the eye, this warm air gathers moisture from lakes, rivers, trees, and even the soil. Slowly, patiently, it begins to rise. This rising motion is called an updraft, but it's not a rush, not a push. It's more like a dreamy float, like a balloon, slowly drifting upward, carrying the day's heat and humidity higher into the sky. As this air rises, it cools, and as it cools, something quiet but magical begins to happen. The moisture hidden in the air starts to condense tiny droplets, forming around even tinier particles of dust and salt, creating the very first threads of a cloud. No lightning yet, no thunder, just the sky inhaling slowly, preparing. This is the earliest stage of a thunderstorm, a time of softness. Meteorologists call this the cumulus stage, but tonight we'll simply call it the whisper phase. A peaceful moment when the atmosphere begins its slow, poetic stretch toward the sky. High above, the temperature continues to drop, and the farther the air rises, the more moisture condenses and the more droplets gather. Each one contributes to a larger structure, forming in the distance a building cloud that's still gentle, still undecided in its intentions. Sometimes the process ends here. The updraft fades, the cloud dissipates, and the sky returns to stillness. Not every whisper becomes a storm, but other times the atmosphere gives its quiet permission, and so the whisper continues to rise. Wind patterns, air pressure, humidity, and invisible layers of temperature all play their subtle roles, like instruments in a sleeping orchestra. The sky is never just empty space. It's full of energy, waiting for balance. And when conditions are just right, the balance tips ever so softly. The cloud grows taller, more moisture condenses, and the air begins to circulate within. You wouldn't know it from the ground. The leaves may barely move. The air might feel thick, but not troubled. And yet, above it all, a slow choreography is unfolding, one that began with a single, silent lift. Even the most powerful thunderstorms begin like this, with a whisper, with a rising breath, with warmth saying hello to height. So, if you ever find yourself staring up at a quiet sky on a humid afternoon, you might just be watching the very beginning of something soft, something skyborn, something that began, as all storms do, with a peaceful upward sigh. From a distance, it looks like a mountain made of air, but the cumulonimbus cloud is not solid. It's sculpted from vapor, formed slowly by the sky's own rising breath. The name cumulonimbus might sound a little formal, a little scientific, but tonight we'll just think of it as a soft, sky-built tower. One that doesn't rise in an instant, but grows gently, in layers, like a painter adding brushstrokes to a living canvas. It all starts with warm, moist air, drifting upward. As it ascends, it cools and condenses, forming a cloud. And that cloud begins to grow, not just outward, like a fluffy blanket, but upward, higher and higher. The top stretches toward the colder parts of the troposphere, often reaching heights of 30,000, 40,000, sometimes over 50,000 feet. And yet, the rise never feels hurried. From the ground, you might look up and notice the bottom of the cloud thickening, shading gently. The sides become pillowed, like soft cotton tumbling skyward. Each tier of the cloud builds upon the last. Moisture condenses, the tower grows. Stillness is transformed into structure. Sometimes, the top of the cloud flattens out into an anvil shape, a quiet signal that the storm has reached the boundary where rising air can no longer climb. The stratosphere gently presses down from above, sculpting the cloud's upper edge into a delicate shelf. But even this limit doesn't feel harsh. It's more like a resting place, a soft ceiling for a cloud that has reached its peak. Inside, the cloud is alive with motion. Updrafts carry warmth and vapor high into the atmosphere, while downdrafts, cooler air falling, begin to form in return. This vertical ballet helps power the storm, even as the cloud maintains its elegant outward calm. From afar, you might see the sun setting behind it, casting golden light around the edges. Or you may catch a glimpse of its silhouette in the moonlight dark, massive yet quiet. There is beauty in its form, and even more beauty in knowing how it formed. The cumulonimbus is not just a storm cloud, it's a monument to the invisible, a skyborne tower built from warmth, moisture, and time. The atmosphere is full of gentle encounters. Some of the most important meetings in meteorology don't make a sound. They happen quietly, where one air mass begins to brush against another, where warmth and coolness meet not in a clash, but in a gradual, skybound greeting. This is how many thunderstorms begin. Imagine warm air drifting in from a sunlit valley. It carries moisture, soft and invisible, gathered from lakes, forests, or even the ocean. Now, picture cooler air settling in from a shaded plain or mountain slope. It's denser, a little heavier, and it likes to stay close to the ground. When the warm air arrives, it doesn't push. It simply rises because it's lighter, and the cool air gently allows it to do so. This meeting is called a frontal boundary, but we won't think of it as a boundary at all. We'll think of it as a conversation, one that begins with a nod and continues upward. As the warm, moist air rises, it cools. Clouds begin to form slowly at first, then more fully. These clouds are the early signs of a growing storm. The cool air below acts as a platform. The warm air above becomes the sculptor. Soon, the sky is full of gentle movement, not chaos, not noise, just a slow exchange between two types of air. And from that quiet conversation, a thunderstorm may bloom. In the world of thunderstorms, lifting is not a forceful thing. It doesn't shove or strain. Instead, it invites. The atmosphere is full of gentle guidance. Warm air doesn't charge upward, it's lifted, cradled, coaxed into motion by subtle changes in pressure, temperature, and terrain. Let's imagine a quiet afternoon. The ground is warm beneath your feet. The air above it, touched by sunlight, begins to rise. This is not a sudden leap, but a slow float, like steam curling upward from a cup of tea. This motion, called an updraft, is one of nature's softest architects. It builds without bricks. It shapes without hands. It crafts the skeleton of a storm in midair, entirely invisible to the eye at first. Some updrafts begin when warm air glides up the slope of a hill or mountain. This is known as orographic lifting. The landscape itself becomes a staircase, allowing air to gently climb, step by airy step. Other updrafts are sparked by surface heating. The land warms unevenly, and where it's warmer, the air lifts more easily. These localized upward motions are like little elevators scattered across the earth, each carrying warmth skyward. And then there's frontal lifting, when a cooler air mass slips beneath a warmer one. Not to displace it, but to support it, to hold it up, as a hand might lift a sheet to let the breeze in. In all these cases, air rises, but it does so slowly. As it rises, it expands and cools. The invisible water vapor within it begins to condense into droplets, forming the base of a cloud. And so, from the quiet work of lifting, the first pieces of a storm take shape. Not with thunder, not with wind, but with softness. The stronger the updraft, the taller the cloud can grow. In some cases, these gentle risings can carry droplets and even ice crystals miles into the atmosphere. And yet, even in its power, the updraft remains elegant, like a thermal sigh unfolding upward through the layers of sky. Inside the growing storm, these updrafts create vertical pathways, channels of warmth and moisture rising higher and higher. They help build the cloud's towering form, feeding it from below. Without lifting, there is no storm. But with lifting, quiet, sustained, and lovingly patient, a sky can become sculpted into something magnificent. Next time you watch a cloud forming slowly overhead, remember, you are witnessing the gentle art of upward motion, the soft ascent of breath into sky, a storm to be, still dreaming. The air is always carrying a secret of how much moisture it holds, and how close it is to letting it go. That secret is revealed through something called the dew point. But tonight, we'll think of it not as a measurement, but as a threshold, a quiet moment when the invisible becomes visible. The dew point is the temperature at which air becomes fully saturated with moisture. When the air cools to this point, it can no longer hold all its water vapor, and so gently, silently, condensation begins. It doesn't announce itself, it simply arrives. Clouds begin here. Picture a warm parcel of air rising. As it ascends, it cools. If it cools enough to reach its dew point, something delicate happens. Water vapor begins to cling to tiny particles in the air. Dust, pollen, salt. These are called condensation nuclei, and they give water vapor something to hold on to. From this union, droplets are born, and from millions of droplets, a cloud is woven. The dew point is the moment the atmosphere begins to paint. It's when the brush touches canvas and the sky starts to write its story in strokes of vapor. We often associate the dew point with surface observations, like beads of water on grass in the morning. But high above, it's just as meaningful. Within a storm, different layers of air carry different dew points. Some pockets may remain dry, others humid. And where the air reaches saturation, cloud growth can deepen. The higher the dew point, the more moisture is in the air. And the more moisture, the greater the potential for cloud formation and, eventually, rainfall. But tonight, we aren't chasing outcomes. We're resting inside the in-between, the space just before the sky speaks. The dew point is not dramatic. It doesn't stir winds or light the sky. It simply marks a gentle transition from invisible to visible, from quiet vapor to soft cloud. In meteorology, it's a number. In sleep, it's a hush, a moment of atmospheric surrender. So, if you ever feel a dampness in the evening air, or watch a cloud slowly begin to form above the trees, you may be witnessing the air reaching its dew point, the calm signal that the sky is ready to begin. Far above, where the clouds stretch tall and wide, a quiet mystery begins to form, one you cannot see, but that will someday flicker as light across the sky. Inside the growing cumulonimbus cloud, tiny particles begin to collide. Raindrops, ice crystals, and soft hailstones bump into each other, carried by rising and falling currents. And with each collision, something subtle is exchanged, an electrical charge. These movements are soft, scattered, and constant. Updrafts push particles upward. Downdrafts bring others downward. In the motion between, charge is sorted. Positive charges collect near the top of the cloud. Negative charges settle lower down. It's like the cloud is organizing itself, layer by electric layer. But none of this is loud. You wouldn't hear it from below. You wouldn't see it yet. This build-up of static is the storm's secret rhythm, a hush beneath the hum, a balancing act that unfolds in silence. Eventually, when the imbalance grows large enough, the sky will respond. A spark may leap from one part of the cloud to another, or from cloud to ground. But in this chapter, we linger in the before, in the stillness where charge collects, where the cloud becomes quietly alive with potential, where the air around it begins to feel different, thicker, perhaps, expectant, but still calm. Have you ever touched a blanket fresh from the dryer and felt a soft crackle along your skin? That's static electricity, a small version of what the cloud holds inside. The storm's electricity is not angry. It's not dangerous in its birth. It's a natural part of the atmosphere seeking balance, a quiet rearranging of energy. And so the cloud prepares. It hums without sound. It glows without light. The storm is still gentle, still distant, still dreaming of thunder. High above the earth, where the sky thins and temperatures fall away, a thunderstorm reaches its quiet limit. The rising air that has been lifting so patiently from below finally meets a boundary it cannot pass. This boundary is called the tropopause, a gentle ceiling separating the lower atmosphere from the calmer layers above. When the warm updraft reaches this invisible edge, it doesn't stop abruptly. Instead, it slows, spreads, and relaxes outward, like a breath meeting the end of a long sigh. The cloud begins to change shape. What was once a vertical tower now unfurls sideways, forming a wide, flattened crown. This is the anvil, the soft, familiar silhouette seen from miles away. Though its name sounds solid and heavy, the anvil is anything but. It's made of ice crystals, delicate and slow-moving, drifting outward in thin, feathery layers. The anvil is a sign of maturity, not urgency, not intensity, just completion. Inside the cloud, the storm has grown tall enough to touch the sky's upper boundary. The updraft still rises, but now it has learned to rest as well. The air spreads sideways, flowing outward like a calm tide across the upper atmosphere. From the ground, the anvil appears calm and expansive, a soft roof, a wide canopy, a cloud that has reached its full expression. Sunlight often paints its edges in pale gold or silver, especially late in the day. At night, moonlight traces its outline gently, revealing wispy textures that seem to float rather than hang. The anvil also helps shape what happens below. As air spreads outward at the top, it supports the storm structure beneath, helping maintain the rising and falling motions within. It's a quiet organizer, distributing energy without sound. Meteorologists recognize the anvil as a marker in a storm's life cycle. But for us, it can simply be admired. It's the dreamlike phase of the thundercloud, the moment when growth gives way to stillness, when upward motion becomes outward calm. If you've ever watched a thunderstorm from far away and noticed its top stretching wide across the sky, you've seen this dream taking shape. The storm has reached its gentle crown, and there it rests, spreading softly, balanced between earth and space. There is often a pause before a thunderstorm truly begins. A hush. The air grows still. Leaves stop rustling. Even birds seem to quiet their movement. It's as though the world has decided, collectively, to take a breath and hold it. This moment is not empty. It's full of subtle change. As a storm approaches, pressure shifts quietly. The atmosphere adjusts itself, redistributing air in gentle ways that are barely noticeable unless you're listening closely. The wind may soften or change direction. The temperature might dip slightly or feel heavier against the skin. The sky often deepens in color, not suddenly, but gradually. Blues darken, whites grow denser. Light becomes filtered, as though passing through layers of silk. This is the calm before the storm. It's not a warning, it's a transition. Within the cloud, movement continues, updrafts and downdrafts, weaving their invisible paths. But near the surface, everything feels suspended. The atmosphere is preparing, aligning its pieces before the next chapter unfolds. People often describe this moment as peaceful, even comforting. There's something grounding about stillness shared across a landscape, a quiet agreement between sky and earth. Sounds carry differently now. Distant noises feel muted. The air feels thick but calm, like a blanket settling into place. This pause is brief but meaningful. It reminds us that weather doesn't rush. Even storms take time to gather themselves. For centuries, people have noticed this hush. It has been written into poetry, whispered in stories, and remembered in quiet moments spent watching the horizon. Tonight, we rest in this pause. No thunder yet, no rain, just anticipation softened into calm. If you're listening closely, you might notice your own breathing slow, your shoulders drop, your thoughts drift. The calm before the storm isn't a moment to fear. It's a moment to notice, a gentle space between what was and what will soon arrive. When thunderstorms form near sunset or under a rising moon, something quietly beautiful happens along their edges. Light finds the cloud. As the sun lowers toward the horizon, its rays travel longer paths through the atmosphere. The light becomes warmer, softer, more golden. When it reaches a towering thundercloud, it brushes against the edges first, catching on curves, folds, and wisps of vapor. The result is a glow, not bright, not sharp, but gentle and luminous. The outer edges of the cloud begin to shimmer with subtle color. Pale golds, soft peaches, muted silvers. Each layer reflects light differently, revealing the cloud's depth and structure in a way daylight often hides. At night, moonlight performs a similar quiet magic. Though far dimmer than the sun, the moon's light outlines the thunderhead in cool whites and faint blues. The cloud seems to float, its edges glowing softly against the darker sky. These glowing outlines are a reminder that clouds are not solid. They are collections of droplets and crystals, spaced apart, allowing light to scatter and bend gently through them. This scattering softens everything. Hard edges dissolve, shadows blur. The storm looks less imposing, more dreamlike. From a distance, a glowing thundercloud can feel almost peaceful, like a floating island of light drifting slowly across the sky. Photographers often wait for these moments, but you don't need a camera to appreciate them. All it takes is a quiet pause and an upward glance. The glow doesn't last long. As the sun sets fully or the moon shifts, the light fades. But while it's there, it transforms the storm into something painterly and calm. It's a reminder that even powerful weather contains softness. That beauty often appears at the edges. That light always finds a way to touch the sky. And as the glow fades, the cloud remains still calm, still moving, still part of the night's slow unfolding. Not all rain begins with a sudden burst. Sometimes the sky opens slowly, tenderly, offering just one droplet at first, then another, then a few more, spaced gently, like footsteps across a quiet hallway. This is how many thunderstorms begin. Long before the downpour, long before the rhythm of falling rain fills the space around us, there is a moment when the very first drop arrives. And it rarely shouts. It simply lands. Perhaps it touches the surface of a leaf, or taps lightly on the rooftop, or slides down a window pane, leaving behind a small glistening trail. These first droplets have travelled far, from high inside the heart of a towering cloud. Within that cloud, moisture has condensed around tiny particles, growing slowly into droplets or ice crystals. Carried by gentle air currents, up, down, and around, they've finally grown heavy enough to fall. But even falling, they do not rush. The air below still offers resistance. Some droplets evaporate on their way down. Others float slightly, drifted sideways by a breeze, or slowed by warm layers closer to the earth. The first drop that makes it to the ground is a quiet messenger. It says, "The storm has begun," but it says it softly. You might notice it on your skin, cool and unexpected, or on the sidewalk, where a dark circle blooms briefly before fading. Sometimes there is a long pause between the first drop and the rest, a thoughtful delay, as if the sky is still deciding whether to continue. This pause is part of the rhythm, a hesitation, a deep breath, and then more droplets follow. Not yet a shower, just a pattern beginning to form. Tap, pause, tap, tap. In meteorology, we might measure rainfall rates or droplet sizes. But here, in this sleepy space, we focus instead on the feeling. On the way, rain arrives like a soft exhale. For some, the first drop brings comfort. It signals a shift, a washing away of heat, of dust, of stillness, a change that doesn't alarm but soothes. The kind of change you can welcome from the shelter of a porch, or through an open window, or even under a canopy of trees. Raindrops carry memories too, of seasons past, of walks taken, of stories told near rain-slicked glass. So, when that first drop falls, don't rush indoors just yet. Let it find you. Let it whisper its gentle announcement. Let it be what it always is, the beginning of a soft release from the sky. There's a scent that sometimes arrives before the rain does. It slips through the air like a memory, earthy, warm, and deeply calming. It's called petrichor. Even before the first drop touches the ground, this fragrance begins to rise. It comes not from the clouds, but from the soil, the rocks, the land itself. Petrichor is made of many things, but mostly it's the result of plant oils and microbial compounds released into the air when raindrops hit dry ground. One of the key ingredients is geosmin, a molecule produced by soil-dwelling bacteria. Our noses are especially sensitive to it, even in tiny amounts. When raindrops strike the earth, they don't just land, they splash and scatter, trapping tiny air bubbles that rise and burst, releasing these earthy aromas into the breeze. It's chemistry, yes, but it feels like poetry. The scent of petrichor is comforting. It stirs something gentle in the mind, a soft nostalgia, a sense of return. You might smell it just before the storm arrives, especially after a long dry spell. Or you may breathe it in after a light rain has kissed the garden or forest floor. It's not sharp, not perfumed, but round, warm, and full. Children notice it instinctively. Animals pause for it. Even cities seem to soften when it arrives. Petrichor reminds us that the earth is living, breathing, responding. It connects sky to soil, water to scent, movement to memory. In a world of many noises, petrichor is quiet. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply appears. You inhale it, and for a moment, everything stills. There is something ancient in this fragrance, and something universal. It's a signal, not just of rain, but of renewal. So, the next time you step outside and notice that grounding smell in the air, pause, breathe deeply, and know that the land is speaking back to the sky through scent. Far away, the sky speaks in low tones. You may not see lightning, you may not feel wind, but somewhere beyond the hills or horizon, a thunderstorm is quietly unfolding, and its voice reaches you in a murmur. This is distant thunder. It doesn't crack, it rolls, long and low, like a drum played in another room. Its sharp edges have been softened by miles of atmosphere. What was once a brilliant flash and booming report has become a gentle hum. Thunder begins as a rapid expansion of air, a sound wave created by lightning, heating the surrounding air in an instant. But sound, unlike light, travels slowly, and as it travels, it changes. High frequencies fade first, leaving behind only the deep rumbles. These lower sounds travel far, bending with the curvature of the earth and weaving through layers of air. By the time they reach you, the thunder has forgotten its original shape. It has become a whisper of itself. You may hear it late at night, when the world is quiet enough to notice, or on a humid evening, when the sky is heavy and the sound can carry across great distances. It's not frightening, it's thoughtful, resonant, a lullaby sung by the sky to the sleeping earth. Some call it heat thunder, though the name is a bit misleading. It's not caused by heat, but by distance. The storm is too far away for its lightning to be seen, but close enough for the sound to find you. There's a timeless comfort in hearing it, a reminder that weather doesn't just happen above us, it travels, it reaches out, it connects places you can see with places you cannot. You don't need to react, you don't need to worry, just listen. Let the rumble pass through you like a slow wave. And if it fades into silence again, know that the storm is still out there, moving gently across the night, telling its story through soft echoes in the sky. Not all lightning seeks the ground. Sometimes it remains tucked within the clouds themselves, moving softly, illuminating the sky from within like a gentle lantern hidden behind a curtain. This is known as in-cloud lightning, and though it may never strike the earth, it dances across the sky in ways that feel dreamlike, flickering silently like thoughts across the mind of the atmosphere. When lightning forms, it's the result of an imbalance of electric charge, charges separated by swirling winds and ice crystals deep within the cloud. But where that electricity travels depends on many subtle things. Some discharges flow between cloud layers, arcing horizontally. Others stretch from one part of the storm to another, farther than we might imagine. In rare moments, in-cloud lightning can span tens of miles, branching like quiet veins of light across a canvas of vapor. If you've ever seen the sky flash on a cloudy night but heard no thunder, you may have witnessed this hidden light show. A quiet pulse, a soft flash behind the clouds, as if the sky were blinking to itself. Because the lightning stays contained within the cloud, it's often diffused. There's no sharp bolt, no jagged line etched against the dark, just a gentle spreading glow, like the soft flicker of a candle behind frosted glass. Sometimes it pulses once, sometimes it flickers repeatedly, like the steady beat of a faraway drum. But always it remains folded inside, light wrapped in cloud. This form of lightning is especially common in large thunderheads that stretch high into the atmosphere. These clouds, full of moisture and movement, hold within them entire storms that we rarely see in full. But the flashes reveal their shape, their depth, their breadth. If you've watched a storm roll in from afar at twilight, you may have seen these hidden lights glowing inside the belly of the cloud. They flicker without urgency. They paint no shadows. They tell you the storm is thinking, not roaring. And when the clouds are high and thick, the lightning becomes like mood lighting for the sky, soft and atmospheric. No strike, no threat, just illumination. You don't need to see the bolt. You don't even need the thunder. Sometimes, just the light is enough. So next time you notice the sky glowing behind the clouds, slowly, rhythmically, without sound, pause. You're witnessing the storm's quiet inner dialogue, a luminous whisper across the heavens. The earth beneath us often feels steady, solid, still, but above it, and sometimes just above the surface, the air is in constant motion. And during a thunderstorm, that movement becomes even more intricate, more purposeful, more poetic. One of the most beautiful examples of this is something called a gust front. As rain-cooled air descends within a thunderstorm, it spreads outward along the ground. Like a soft tide of chilled wind, it flows ahead of the storm's arrival, carrying with it a change in texture, a quiet message that rain is on its way. You may feel it as a sudden coolness, a shift in the way leaves move, a gentle shiver through tall grasses. This outflow boundary, as meteorologists call it, acts like a miniature cold front. It rolls outward, lifting warmer surface air and sometimes creating new clouds in its wake. But to us, it feels like a quiet breath across the land, one you can't always see, but can certainly feel. Then come the downdrafts, cool air descending from high within the cloud. As rain falls, it drags the surrounding air downward with it. When that air reaches the surface, it spreads out, gently rippling across the landscape. These are not wild winds. They are thoughtful, measured, spreading calmly, carrying the scent of rain and the weight of moisture through open fields, neighborhoods, and forests. Sometimes, a gust front picks up a bit of dust or pollen. Other times, it stirs petals or twirls forgotten leaves. It arrives before the rain does. It speaks first. All of this motion happens while the ground remains steady, trees rooted, hills unmoving. But above, and just above, the sky is flowing, turning, breathing. Storms may seem like they crash in, but often they arrive in movements like these. Air displacing air, soft layers exchanging places, the storm saying hello with cool fingers before the first drop ever falls. So the next time you feel that sudden, cooler breeze just before rain, know that you're standing inside one of nature's more elegant transitions. The land may be still, but the air is moving like a tide. Let's slow everything down for a moment. So much happens in a thunderstorm that we rarely pause to notice the simple, singular beauty of a single raindrop. Not the storm, not the wind, just the drop, one at a time. It begins high in the cloud. Water vapor condenses into a tiny droplet, clinging to a particle of dust, salt, or pollen. Updrafts carry it upward, sometimes adding to its size. It might freeze for a moment, then thaw again. As the droplet grows heavy, gravity gently pulls it downward. Now imagine this all in slow motion. The drop begins to fall, but its journey is not straight. Air surrounds it, air in motion, air with texture. Wind shapes the droplet, flattening its bottom slightly, giving it a soft teardrop form. As it falls, it spins gently, dances lightly, adjusting its path with each puff of breeze. Smaller drops fall more slowly. They drift, sometimes caught in thermals or swept into spirals. Larger drops descend faster, but even they are cushioned by the atmosphere, slowed by the thickness of the air. Eventually, each drop lands on soil, leaf, rooftop, window. Some bounce, some merge, some vanish into thirsty earth. Raindrops make music too, soft taps, gentle splashes, a rhythm written by clouds and gravity. In the midst of a thunderstorm, it's easy to think only of the big picture, the flashes, the rumbles, the sweep of wind. But every raindrop is a world unto itself, a traveller, a sculpture, a soft punctuation mark in the story of a storm. And when you slow it down just for a moment, you see the beauty hidden in the ordinary. So tonight, let each drop fall slowly in your mind. Watch it form, watch it glide, and let it land softly, again and again, until your thoughts settle with it. Thunder isn't a single sound. It's a journey, one that begins high above, with a flicker of lightning, and echoes softly through layers of sky and time. When lightning flashes, it heats the air around it almost instantly. This sudden expansion of heated air creates a sound wave, one that starts sharp but stretches, tumbles and rolls as it moves outward from the strike. That first burst is brief, but the echo it leaves behind can linger. Close by, thunder might feel loud and crisp, but from far away it becomes something else entirely. A slow rumble, a sleepy drum roll, a song the sky sings to itself. This rolling quality happens because of how sound travels. It bounces, it bends, it wraps around buildings, hills, and forests. The high notes fade quickly, lost in the folds of the atmosphere. But the lower tones, the deep, slow ones, carry on, drifting for miles. Sometimes, thunder rolls once, then fades. Other times, it repeats softly, like a whisper returning home. Each roll tells us something about the storm, how tall it is, how far the lightning traveled, and how the landscape around us is helping shape the sound. But for us tonight, we're not measuring, we're just listening. Close your eyes and imagine it. A warm night, a sky slowly darkening, and somewhere in the distance, a low rumble begins. Soft at first, then stretching into a rolling wave, tumbling across the clouds, then fading into stillness. You may hear it in bed as you drift towards sleep, or while walking beneath a porch roof, wrapped in a blanket of twilight air. You might not count the seconds between flash and sound. You might just breathe with it. Let it come. Let it pass. Let it roll on like a lullaby spoken by the sky. Thunder, in this softened form, is not a warning. It's a reminder that the world is large, that the air moves with memory, that the sky has stories to hum, slow and rolling, shaped by light. So next time thunder sings its distant, wandering tune, listen gently. You're hearing the sky's version of a bedtime song. It's late. The air is warm. The cicadas hum softly in the grass. And far off on the horizon, the sky begins to flicker. No thunder follows, no rain falls, just flashes of light, blooming and fading behind the clouds. This is heat lightning. Despite its name, heat lightning isn't caused by heat. It's simply lightning from a distant thunderstorm, so far away that its thunder can't be heard. The sound has faded before it ever reaches your ears. But the light still finds you. On summer nights, when the air is thick and skies stretch open above quiet fields and slow rivers, these flickers feel almost magical. They pulse like gentle heartbeats. They echo with light, not sound. They remind us that something beautiful is happening just out of reach. Some flashes last only a moment, small, soft pulses that light up the underside of a cloud. Others ripple outward, illuminating the whole horizon in a pale, silvery glow. If you watch patiently, you might see them repeat every few seconds, each one painting the night sky with another gentle brushstroke. There's no need to worry. The storm is far away, likely over another town or beyond a distant hill. What reaches you is only the light, filtered, quiet, and safe. People have watched heat lightning for centuries. It's been written about in lullabies and travel journals, described as silent lightning or skyfire. But whatever name it carries, the feeling is the same: calm, still, softly glowing. In meteorological terms, these flashes are still full lightning discharges, just ones whose sound waves can't carry far enough to be heard. At night, when the air cools and becomes more transparent to light, these flashes become easier to see. And so, summer nights sometimes hold their own silent show. No crack, no clap, just light blooming behind the clouds, like a lantern flickering gently in another room. If you find yourself awake late at night, and the sky begins to glow off in the distance, let yourself watch. No rush, no noise, just flickers, fading, then flickering again. Heat lightning is the storm's most peaceful expression, a gentle way of saying, I'm here, but far away. A lullaby told only in light. When we think of hail, we often imagine loud clatters and heavy chunks of ice. But not all hailstorms are dramatic. Sometimes, a thunderstorm drops tiny spheres of ice, small, rounded, and harmless, like sleepy marbles falling from the clouds. This is soft hail, also called graupel or ice pellets. These frozen droplets are gentle by comparison. They form high inside the storm, where raindrops rise into freezing layers and collect coats of frost, layering like petals around a center. Each hailstone is shaped by the storm's updrafts. Lifted, dropped, lifted again, slowly gathering rings of ice as they tumble softly within the cloud. Eventually, they grow too heavy to stay aloft. But even then, they don't crash downward. They drift, they fall in patterns, and they land with a sound that's more hush than hammer. You might hear them tap softly on rooftops, car hoods, or windowsills, like a delicate percussion section playing a quiet song. Some bounce gently across sidewalks. Others melt as they land, disappearing into the warmth of the earth without a trace. These soft hailstones are often mistaken for snowballs, but they're smoother, rounder, tiny frozen sculptures built by air. When they fall at night, lit only by porch light or moonlight, they seem to glow faintly, like stars skipping softly across the ground. Unlike their larger cousins, These little ice marbles rarely do damage. They arrive more like a surprise, a cooling of the storm, a pause in the rain's rhythm. And just as gently as they arrive, they're gone, melted, absorbed, whispered away by the wind. To witness a soft hail event is to catch the sky in a delicate mood, playful, precise, unrushed. If you ever notice a sudden chill in the air and hear a subtle clicking sound outside, pause, step to the window. You might just see a garden of ice pebbles forming for a moment before the warmth returns. Not every storm touches the ground. Some remain suspended, far above us, floating quietly through the upper layers of the atmosphere, like cloud castles adrift in the sky. These are elevated thunderstorms, storms that build and bloom high aloft, without ever making much of themselves known at the surface. No rain on your window, no wind at your door, just distant light and soft echoes overhead. These storms form when a layer of warm, moist air is lifted above a cooler, more stable air mass near the ground. This setup creates something special, a storm that lives in the sky, but not on the earth. It's a gentle inversion. The lower atmosphere remains calm and undisturbed, while up above, moisture condenses, clouds swell, and lightning begins its silent stitching between vapor and vapor. You might not feel a thing, just a slight heaviness in the air. No breeze, no shifting trees. And yet, if you were to look up, you might catch a flicker through the clouds, a light that pulses softly and fades again. A storm is passing, but far above. Because these elevated storms are disconnected from the ground, they often don't bring rain or thunder you can hear. Their voices are hushed by altitude. Their footprints never reach the earth. At night, they are especially mysterious. Flashes bloom inside cloud banks, dimly lighting the sky like distant lanterns. From the ground, it feels like a dream, something happening in another world, only partly visible through a curtain of night. These kinds of storms are most common in the cooler months, or during transitions between air masses. They're made possible by quiet layers, zones of temperature and moisture, that align in just the right way to allow for cloud growth, but only above a certain height. From a meteorological perspective, we admire their complexity, but from here, from the softness of sleep, we admire their subtlety. They remind us that not all storms arrive with sound, that not all clouds must weep, that sometimes, even in the quietest skies, great and beautiful things are unfolding just out of reach. So the next time you see flickers in the clouds, but feel no rain, know that a gentle storm may be passing by overhead, floating, unfolding, never touching the ground, and never needing to. There's something quietly mesmerizing about the way rain lands on streets, rooftops, and sidewalks. Each drop leaves a mark. Each mark becomes a pattern. And slowly, these patterns begin to speak, a soft, rhythmic language that only rain can write. In the early moments of a shower, you might notice the first dark circles appear on dry pavement. They bloom like ink, spreading softly outward before fading into the next. A few more drops follow, then dozens, then thousands. The concrete changes color, becoming darker and glossier. Water gathers in dips and hollows, tracing the shape of the land in tiny lakes and flowing threads. You might see thin rivulets streaming down the curb, carrying petals, leaves, and glimmering reflections along their way. Each puddle becomes a mirror of clouds, of traffic lights, of moonlight. Raindrops dance on these surfaces, creating ripples that overlap and fade, one ring within another, a soft choreography, a circular rhythm of touch and dissolve. On rooftops, shingles darken in patches. Water clings to corners and slips down gutters, where it joins the soft percussion of rain, travelling from sky to earth and then onward. Sometimes you'll notice the glow of passing headlights bending through wet pavement, stretching and shimmering like ribbon. Or the way neon signs flicker across a soaked sidewalk, distorted but beautiful. Even the quiet of a residential street holds its own reflections. Porch lights glowing in puddles, branches mirrored in still water, the outline of a tree shifting with every new drop. In a world that moves fast, rain slows everything down. It paints the familiar in new ways, softening edges, blending shapes, reminding us that nothing stays dry forever, and that's perfectly okay. There is no rush in these patterns, no urgency in the flow, just the earth receiving and the rain expressing. You don't need to analyze it, just watch or listen. Raindrops on pavement are like thoughts settling after a long day, falling into place, one after another, until the ground holds them gently. And then they begin to disappear. The puddles evaporate, the patterns fade, the surface dries. But for a moment, while it lasted, the world became a painting made entirely of water and light. When thunderclouds gather beneath a full moon, the sky becomes a silver stage. Gone is the harsh light of day. In its place, a quiet, luminous glow. Clouds that once looked heavy and grey now drift like sculptures of soft pearl. Moonlit thunderstorms are rare, but unforgettable. They appear after dark, often late in the evening, when the world has hushed and the last traces of sunset have slipped away. If you're lucky enough to witness one, you'll see lightning flash from within the cloud, briefly illuminating its structure from the inside. The light doesn't scream across the sky, it blooms, it glows behind the cloud's curtain, revealing its peaks, folds and edges in soft silver. Each flash is like a heartbeat, brief, pulsing, and then gone. The moon, ever gentle, watches quietly overhead, casting her glow across the tops of the clouds. There is no roar in these moments, sometimes no thunder at all, just the slow reveal of cloud contours painted in light. This quiet interplay of electricity and moonlight creates a uniquely peaceful spectacle. The sky feels both alive and asleep, a balance between tension and calm. You may feel a stillness in your own breath as you watch, the kind of stillness that comes from knowing you're safe and small and standing beneath something vast but peaceful. The clouds continue their slow drift. The lightning flickers now and then, never too bright, never too loud, and the moon glows on. This is the kind of scene that poets write about, the kind of sky you remember long after the storm has passed, not for its power, but for its peace. If you ever see a thunderstorm touched by moonlight, stay with it. Let your eyes adjust. Let your thoughts quiet. You're witnessing one of the sky's rarest lullabies, a storm wrapped in silver, a cloud kissed by the moon. High above us, the atmosphere carries invisible boundaries. One of the gentlest, yet most important, is something meteorologists call the cap. This cap isn't solid. It's not something you could see or touch. And yet, it holds power, not through force, but through balance. It is simply a layer of warmer air that rests quietly above a cooler, rising layer below. And its role is to pause the storm. Let's imagine the air near the surface is warm and humid. It rises slowly, gathering moisture, building soft clouds as it goes. You might expect this rising air to keep climbing, to form the tall towers of a thunderstorm. But then, it stops. The cap is waiting. This warm layer aloft acts like a quiet lid on the atmosphere. It's just warm enough to keep the cooler air beneath it from rising further. It creates stability, not with resistance, but with softness. For a while, the sky holds still. Clouds may puff and grow slightly, then flatten. Updrafts stall. Energy collects beneath the cap, but the atmosphere remains calm. This boundary is often invisible to the eye, but not to the weather. It marks a threshold where potential energy is held gently in place. Like a book resting on a shelf, the story inside waiting to unfold. And sometimes that story never opens. If the surface air doesn't become warm or buoyant enough, the cap remains intact. No storm forms. The atmosphere stays peaceful, quiet, and undisturbed. Other times, the cap is eventually broken, lifted by surface heating, or a passing front, or upper-level winds. When that happens, the built-up energy is released, and a storm may blossom rapidly in the sky. But even in that case, the cap played its part. It delayed, it steadied, it offered the atmosphere a moment of pause. Meteorologists watch the cap closely when forecasting thunderstorms, but tonight we observe it from a different place. Not as a number on a chart, but as a pause in the sky, a layer of calm, a hidden hand, holding back the storm with care. You may not know when the cap is overhead. You may only notice the quiet, the way the clouds hesitate, the way the day feels like it wants to storm, but doesn't. That's the cap at work, not denying the weather, just delaying it, allowing the atmosphere to rest, just a little longer. Sometimes the sky lets go of rain, but the rain never arrives. It falls from the clouds in soft streaks, then disappears into the air, fading before it ever reaches the ground. This beautiful, elusive phenomenon is called virga. From a distance, it looks like wisps trailing downward from the base of a cloud, like threads of silk, slowly unraveling into the sky. These streaks are real rain, or sometimes snow, that begins to fall, but vanishes mid-descent. What happens is this: the rain falls through a layer of dry air near the surface, and as it passes through, it evaporates, transformed from liquid back into vapor before it can land, falling, fading, gone. It's an elegant process, no splash, no sound, just the quiet act of letting go and disappearing. Virga often appears in the late afternoon, especially in dry climates or on the edge of storm systems. It's most visible when backlit by the sun, casting pale rays beneath a drifting cloud. To see it is to glimpse a secret, rain that fell but never arrived. And though we can't feel it on our skin or catch it in our hands, virga still affects the world around it. As the rain evaporates, it cools the air in that layer. This cooling can lead to soft downdrafts or shifting breezes across the landscape. Pilots notice virga for its visual beauty and its effects on air currents. But for the rest of us, it's a passing visual lullaby, a sky painting that changes shape even as we watch. You might see virga hanging from high clouds like sheer curtains, or trailing from a distant thunderstorm, sweeping down like a soft grey waterfall that never reaches the river. It reminds us that not all rain is meant to fall, that some things begin, shimmer briefly, and then dissolve, leaving behind only the memory of motion. So, if you ever find yourself under a quiet sky and notice those silver strands trailing downward, take a moment to watch. You're seeing a story that ends before it touches the ground, a falling that never quite becomes landing. Virga is the sky whispering, not yet, not here, just passing through. Not every thunderstorm is grand or long-lived. Some are brief, modest, gentle in their lifespan. These are called pulse storms, small single-cell thunderstorms that grow, rain, and dissolve, all within about 30 to 60 minutes. They are nature's short stories, weather told in a single chapter. Pulse storms begin the same way many thunderstorms do. Warm, moist air rises, lifting into the atmosphere and forming a cloud. The cloud grows upward, stretching toward the colder air above. Condensation begins and droplets form. Then, a towering cumulus cloud becomes something more. A single storm cell. It doesn't roar, it doesn't linger. Rain begins to fall. Perhaps some soft lightning flashes within. A gentle roll of thunder may follow. And then, just as quietly as it began, the storm begins to fade. These storms rely on their own energy. No large systems to feed them. No jet stream assistance. That's why they come and go so quickly. Once the falling rain begins, the downdraft interrupts the rising air that built the storm in the first place. The updraft slows, the cloud begins to unravel, and soon the sky returns to calm. Often, these storms appear on warm afternoons, especially in late spring or summer. They may form over hills, forests, or open fields, wherever heat and moisture quietly gather. They rarely cause trouble. They pass through like a nap in the middle of the day. If you watch the sky closely, you might see a single tower growing on the horizon, then rain beneath it, then nothing, just a cloud softening into haze. Meteorologists love pulse storms for their simplicity, but here we love them for their rhythm. They remind us that not everything big needs to last long, that a storm can rise, speak, and fade within the space of a single breath, and that sometimes a little weather is all the sky needs to say. So if one of these short-lived showers finds its way to your afternoon, pause for a moment. Watch the cloud build. Feel the first drops. Listen to the briefest roll of thunder. And then, just as you settle in, it's already passing, leaving behind damp leaves, quiet light, and a moment of calm that came and went like a sigh. Thunder is not just a sound, it's a traveler, and when it passes through valleys, hills, or canyons, it becomes something more, an echoing song that bounces gently between the folds of the land. When lightning strikes, the thunder that follows begins as a single, sharp sound. But the earth beneath it, its shape, its texture, its openness, guides that sound in different ways. Over flat plains, thunder might roll out in a long, even wave. But in hilly or mountainous areas, it becomes layered. It reflects. It wanders. In a quiet valley, the thunder may arrive in ripples, one after another, as if the sky were breathing in echoes. The initial rumble might reach you, followed by a softer one, then another, each one slightly faded, like distant footsteps down a winding hallway of air. This happens because of acoustics, how sound waves interact with the land. Thunder reflects off hillsides, cliffs, and trees. It curls around corners and finds its way into places far beyond where the lightning first touched. If you've ever been in a quiet canyon during a storm, you may have noticed how thunder seems to travel longer, or how it changes pitch as it bounces. Sometimes deep and resonant, other times higher and thinner, shaped by the rocks and ridges around it. In forests on rolling hills, thunder feels more muffled, absorbed gently by tree canopies and softened by mossy ground. In wide valleys, it stretches, lingers, and fades more slowly than in open flatlands. You might even hear the same thunder more than once, coming from slightly different directions as it rebounds quietly around you. These echoes are not chaotic, they're gentle. The land and the air playing a duet, the sky sending sound, and the earth sending it back, gently altered, beautifully delayed. There's something comforting about hearing thunder this way. You don't feel overwhelmed. You feel surrounded in the best way, like the landscape is cradling the sound, wrapping it in folds of green and stone, and handing it back to you, familiar but softened. It's thunder, filtered through geography, a lullaby composed by distance and terrain. So if you ever find yourself tucked into a valley during a summer storm, pause, open a window, or step out beneath a porch roof. Let the thunder roll to you, through you, around you, and listen for the echoes. They're the sky's gentle way of repeating itself, so you never miss the message. Lightning isn't always a bolt. Sometimes it spreads gently across the sky, lighting up entire clouds from within, like a glowing mural painted in soft white and silver. This is cloud-to-cloud lightning, a gentle cousin to the forked strikes that touch the ground. It moves horizontally, weaving across the sky like a soft electric brushstroke. Rather than leaping down, this lightning dances within the body of the storm itself. It stays aloft, diffused and wide, spreading through water droplets and ice crystals, revealing the architecture of the cloud from the inside out. The result is breathtaking, not sharp, not blinding, but full, an illumination that rolls across the sky like ink in slow motion. If you've ever watched a storm at night and seen the entire sky light up, only to return to darkness a moment later, you've likely witnessed this kind of lightning. It reveals shapes we normally can't see. Pillars of vapor, curved cloud edges, swirling updrafts. A glimpse inside the storm's heart. These wide flashes are often silent when viewed from afar. The thunder, if it reaches you at all, is softened, delayed by distance or shaped by the terrain. All that's left is light, gentle, temporary, beautiful. Cloud-to-cloud lightning doesn't always brunch in visible lines. Often, it appears as a backlit pulse, or a brightening that rolls across the heavens like a wave of moonlight. To witness it is to watch the sky breathe in light and exhale it again. Meteorologists track these flashes with tools that measure lightning activity aloft. But you don't need instruments to appreciate them. Just a place to sit, a sky to gaze at, and a moment of quiet. In warm, humid nights, these lightning murals become more common. You might see them from a quiet hilltop, or while lying beneath a porch roof as a storm rolls by, just out of reach. There's no need to wait for a crack or boom. These flashes speak in glow. They write their language in sky-wide strokes. So, if the next storm brings not bolts, but soft internal light, stay with it. Let the clouds become a living painting. Let the lightning paint. And let the darkness gently return, like the closing of the sky's eyelids. Lightning isn't always a bolt. Sometimes it spreads gently across the sky, lighting up entire clouds from within, like a glowing mural painted in soft white and silver. This is cloud-to-cloud lightning, a gentle cousin to the forked strikes that touch the ground. It moves horizontally, weaving across the sky like a soft electric brushstroke. Rather than leaping down, this lightning dances within the body of the storm itself. It stays aloft, diffused and wide, spreading through water droplets and ice crystals, revealing the architecture of the cloud from the inside out. The result is breathtaking, not sharp, not blinding, but full, an illumination that rolls across the sky like ink in slow motion. If you've ever watched a storm at night and seen the entire sky light up, only to return to darkness a moment later, you've likely witnessed this kind of lightning. It reveals shapes we normally can't see. Pillars of vapor, curved cloud edges, swirling updrafts. A glimpse inside the storm's heart. These wide flashes are often silent when viewed from afar. The thunder, if it reaches you at all, is softened, delayed by distance, or shaped by the terrain. All that's left is light, gentle, temporary, beautiful. Cloud-to-cloud lightning doesn't always branch in visible lines. Often, it appears as a backlit pulse, or a brightening that rolls across the heavens like a wave of moonlight. To witness it is to watch the sky breathe in light and exhale it again. Meteorologists track these flashes with tools that measure lightning activity aloft. But you don't need instruments to appreciate them, just a place to sit, a sky to gaze at, and a moment of quiet. In warm, humid nights, these lightning murals become more common. You might see them from a quiet hilltop, or while lying beneath a porch roof as a storm rolls by, just out of reach. There's no need to wait for a crack or boom. These flashes speak in glow. They write their language in sky-wide strokes. So, if the next storm brings not bolts, but soft internal light, stay with it. Let the clouds become a living painting. Let the lightning paint. And let the darkness gently return, like the closing of the sky's eyelids. There's something deeply calming about a storm far out at sea. When you stand at the edge of the land, at the shore, and watch a storm flickering over distant waves, it doesn't feel threatening. It feels like a lullaby playing on the horizon. No wind where you are, no rain on your skin, just the quiet presence of light, far away, dancing above the water. Ocean thunderstorms often form in warm, moist air over the open sea. With no buildings or mountains to interrupt them, they can grow tall and wide, isolated in the vastness. From the coast, you may see their tops stretch high into the night sky, dark shapes against a starlit backdrop. Then comes the lightning, but not sharp bolts, just soft flickers, lighting up the bellies of the clouds like lanterns hung above the waves. Sometimes the lightning pulses once. Other times it flutters gently, as if the sky is trying to whisper from far away. There may be no thunder at all. The sound dissolves into the open air, or is absorbed by the soft crashing of distant surf. This kind of storm feels like it belongs to the sea itself. You're simply a guest, watching, listening, breathing with it. The rhythmic movement of the tide matches the slow pulse of the lightning. Waves come and go, clouds flash and fade. It's easy to feel small but safe, surrounded by openness, touched by light that never reaches you, only graces the sky. If you're near a harbour, you may see the reflections of these flashes dancing on the water's surface, stretching toward you like threads of light. On a quiet beach, the flicker becomes part of the seascape, gentle illumination wrapped in salt air and hush. These distant ocean storms are reminders that the world is wide, and weather doesn't need to arrive to be felt. That calm and movement can exist together. That storms can be beautiful, even when far away. So if you ever walk along the shore at night and see clouds glowing softly on the horizon, take a moment to linger. You are watching weather at peace, a lullaby written in light, reflected across the sea. A storm that stays distant and stays beautiful. Rain, at its core, is a pattern, a steady, rhythmic presence that eases the mind and calms the body. Each drop follows the one before it in a quiet chorus of touch, not rushed, not loud, just consistent, reassuring, soft. There's a reason so many people fall asleep to the sound of rain. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't change course or suddenly stop. It arrives with the same cadence again and again, like a lullaby without words, like the sky gently playing a single peaceful note. Listen closely. Raindrops on leaves make a hushed rustle, tiny taps softened by green. Raindrops on rooftops are more rhythmic, like fingers gently tapping wood or tin. On windows, they form a quieter song still, glass muffling the outside world, allowing the drops to trace downward in silvery streams. On the ground, the rhythm becomes more layered. Puddles ripple, soil drinks, gravel shifts. The entire landscape becomes an instrument, and rain becomes the composer, using droplets as notes, timing as tempo. In meteorology, we might talk about rainfall rates, millimeters per hour, stratiform versus convective rain. But here, we're not measuring, we're feeling, we're listening. This is stratiform rain, broad, steady, long-lasting. It spreads evenly, falling from layered clouds that drift slowly overhead. There's no thunder, no rush, just an ongoing conversation between sky and earth. There's something deeply comforting in this type of rainfall. It lets you settle. You don't brace for it. You ease into it. You may have noticed how rooms feel cozier when it rains outside, as if the world narrows its focus, inviting you inward. The sound of rain on the roof becomes a blanket. The grey light outside softens everything inside. Time slows down. Writers have long compared rain to a metronome, or a heartbeat, or even breathing. It is life's simplest rhythm, heard from the sky. Even animals respond. Birds quiet, deer shelter, dogs curl up. There's no need to analyze this instinct. It's simply the body recognizing calm repetition, a signal that everything, for the moment, is in balance. Rain doesn't need to change to be interesting. Its power is in its steadiness. So, if you ever find yourself beneath a long, gentle rain, whether on a porch, in a car, or in bed by a window, take a breath with it. Match its rhythm. Let it carry you, drop by drop, into rest. Sometimes, a thunderstorm announces itself not with sound, but with a shape, long, low, and sweeping across the sky. This is the shelf cloud. It arrives ahead of the storm like a messenger, a wide, horizontal formation that appears to roll or glide just above the ground. And while it might look dramatic, its underside dark, its edges curling like a slow wave, it often brings only gentle changes, a cooler breeze, a sprinkle of rain, a passing hush across the land. Shelf clouds form along the leading edge of thunderstorm outflows. As cool air spills from the storm's base, it lifts warm, moist air ahead of it. This lifted air condenses, creating a broad, horizontal cloud that seems to stretch from horizon to horizon. It's not towering like a cumulonimbus. It's elongated, layered like a low ceiling of mist. And when seen from a distance, it can look like a skybound wall slowly advancing. But don't be fooled by appearances. Shelf clouds are often gentle giants. They may carry a gust of wind and a momentary coolness, but they're not dangerous in themselves. What they carry is softness, a visible boundary between what was and what's coming next. Some people describe the arrival of a shelf cloud as the sky rolling in. And that's exactly what it feels like the landscape is tucking itself in beneath a sky made of fog and breath. From beneath, you might see its base churn slowly, but never violently. Its edges may be tinted with sunset colors, or brushed with low light that gives depth and shadow to its shape. If you're lucky, you'll witness a shelf cloud forming at dusk, when golden light spills beneath it, illuminating its edges in hues of amber and lavender. The contrast of dark cloud and soft light can be breathtaking, but the feeling it creates is one of awe without fear, stillness before change. Not the storm itself, but the boundary to the storm's softer parts. In some cases, light rain begins just after it passes, or the wind may gently rise, then fall away, as if the sky is letting out a sigh. You don't need to brace yourself when you see one. You can watch, you can marvel. The shelf cloud isn't a threat, it's an announcement, low, slow, and smooth. So, when you see one stretch across the sky, like a sleeping dragon or a velvet ribbon, let yourself settle. You're witnessing one of the sky's more elegant transitions, and what follows will likely be just as gentle. Within the heart of the storm, where cloud walls swirl and moisture moves in silence, a special kind of lightning flickers quietly, hidden, contained, and unseen from many eyes. This is intracloud lightning, the most common form of lightning on Earth. And yet, most people never notice it. Unlike cloud-to-ground lightning, which draws attention with bright forks and booming thunder, intracloud lightning lives entirely within the cloud itself. It flickers from one part of the storm to another, connecting areas of opposite charge, sometimes horizontally, sometimes vertically, sometimes curling inward like a soft spiral of light. To the sky, it is essential. To us, it is subtle. You might see its glow light up the cloud from within, like a lantern hidden inside a balloon. No jagged bolt, no streak across the sky, just a diffuse, dreamy brightening that reveals the cloud's inner structure for the briefest moment. Sometimes it pulses once, then rests. Other times, it dances repeatedly, light gliding through vapor, visible only to those watching closely. From a scientific view, this form of lightning helps balance electric charge in the storm. It's a necessary part of the storm's internal dialogue. But here, it feels more like the sky whispering to itself. On warm nights, these internal flashes can light up the entire horizon without making a sound you can hear. From afar, the storm seems to flicker like a slow heart beating in the distance. No thunder rolls across the land, no alarms, just light behind vapor. These are the lightning cousins that stay home. They don't reach downward, they don't call out, they simply stir the clouds from the inside, illuminating softly, then disappearing. If you've ever watched a storm from your window and seen the sky gently glow without a strike, you've likely witnessed intracloud lightning. It's quiet, reserved, yet powerful in its own way. It reminds us that not all energy is loud, that some forces prefer to stay inside, and that illumination doesn't need to reach the ground to be meaningful. So, if a storm passes tonight, and the clouds glow now and then, without a bolt in sight, know that you're watching lightning's quietest form, a light that prefers to stay within, a story told not in thunder, but in glowing silence. There are few sights more quietly breathtaking than a sunset peeking through the edge of a storm. The storm has passed. Its deepest clouds now retreat into the distance, still tall but unraveling. And just beyond them, the sun begins to lower, casting warm, golden light across a sky still damp from rain. This is a moment of soft contradiction. Clouds still loom, but light returns. Moisture hangs in the air, but the colours begin to glow. The setting sun stretches long rays beneath the storm's base, illuminating it from behind. Edges once shaded in grey now catch light in pinks, oranges, and shimmering golds. The towering forms of the clouds sculpted just moments ago by wind and rain, become gentle silhouettes bathed in pastel fire. Raindrops on leaves or rooftops begin to glint. Puddles glow amber. The entire world seems freshly painted. This kind of light feels different. It's low. It's soft. It spreads like a blanket across the land, wrapping everything in the hush that follows a storm's retreat. Meteorologists call this the postfrontal clearing, when the air behind a passing storm begins to dry and the sky opens. But to us, it's more than a clearing. It's a release, a soft exhale after the tension of cloud and thunder. This light often casts long shadows, especially when the sun sits just above the horizon. It brings out the texture in cloud layers, revealing ridges and folds as though the sky were made of fabric, catching light in pleats and ruffles. Sometimes a rainbow appears during this moment, arching behind the departing clouds, standing tall against the gold-tinged sky. Other times, there's no rainbow, only light filtered through mist and memory. Birds return to the sky, windows open again, and the world feels washed, not just in water, but in warmth. This is the storm's gentle epilogue, a visual lullaby, the sky letting go in light. So, if you ever find yourself watching a storm drift away, wait a little longer. Let the sun meet the clouds. Let the gold find the grey, and watch as rain turns into shimmer, and clouds soften into colour. Sometimes, the most peaceful part of a storm isn't in the sky, but in the glass between you and the rain. Raindrops on windows form their own kind of story. Not loud, not rushing, but slow, artistic, and full of quiet detail. Each drop begins as a single bead, round and clear. It clings to the pane for a moment, catching light, reflecting the outside world in miniature. Then, when it grows heavy enough, it begins to move. Some streak downward in slow, winding paths. Others join with neighbours, merging into teardrop shapes that curve and wobble as they fall. Some leave thin trails behind them, like brushstrokes of water across a vertical canvas. The window becomes a living painting. Outside, the world softens, trees blur, lights stretch. Everything beyond the glass begins to glow and smear slightly, like watercolour. This blurring is part of the magic. The window separates you from the storm, but also connects you to it. You're dry, you're safe, and yet you're watching the sky in motion, through glass that dances with water. At night, the droplets catch artificial light street lamps, porch lights, passing cars. Each source of glow is refracted into soft shapes, scattering across the window in halos of gold or blue. They move as the raindrops move, twinkling, stretching, blinking slowly out of frame. During the day, the light is quieter, cloud-filtered, grey and silver, reflecting softly off each bead like light on glass marbles. Raindrops on windows make their own sound too, a quiet tapping, a slow rhythm, like soft fingers on a drum. This sound, paired with the movement of the drops, creates a kind of visual lullaby. No need to interpret it, just watch. Let it slow your thoughts. If you look closely, you'll see patterns. Some droplets zigzag, some split into branches, some fall in straight, steady lines. Each drop is unique, and yet all follow gravity's gentle pull, guided not by force, but by the softness of surface tension and shape. So the next time it rains, and you find yourself near a window, don't look past the glass. Look at it. Watch the rain write its story in slow, shimmering strokes. Let the world beyond blur, and rest, right here. Storms don't always end suddenly. Most fade away the same way they arrived, gently, unfolding, dissolving, letting go. This chapter explores the soft farewell of a thunderstorm, the moment when its energy begins to slip, and the sky slowly unknots itself from cloud and motion. After the final rumbles of thunder, after the rain begins to lighten, the storm enters its decay stage. Updrafts weaken, moisture thins, cloud tops flatten, losing their towering shapes, and the swirling systems that once built and balanced the storm begin to unwind. The air becomes less active. The atmosphere, once charged and sculpted, is now calmer, returning to equilibrium. In this moment, you might notice that the rain changes. It becomes lighter, more spaced out, dripping rather than falling, a soft drizzle replacing the earlier rhythm. The sky brightens just slightly. You may see holes in the clouds where sunlight peeks through, or notice the cloud base lifting, softening around the edges. The storm is not broken, it's simply finished, its purpose fulfilled, its energy spent. What remains are clouds that drift without structure, no longer pulled upward, no longer growing, their remnants now echoes of what was. Meteorologists observe this dissipation using satellite imagery. Cloud tops shrink, rainfall rates decrease, lightning stops, but from the ground it feels like quiet. A final breeze may move through cool and damp. Raindrops collect in gutters, leaves shimmer in leftover moisture, and the sound of the world slowly returns. Birdsong, footsteps, distant traffic. It's the atmosphere releasing tension, a sky that has exhaled. And even if you slept through the storm itself, this stage is easy to feel. It's the deep calm that comes afterward, the stillness that invites you to breathe a little deeper, to settle again. So, as storms pass and the clouds unravel, don't rush to move on. Let the quiet hold you. Let the sky say its soft goodbye. Because even endings, especially gentle ones, are worth listening to. After the last drops fall and the clouds begin to part, something gentle begins to unfold at ground level. The earth, warmed and stirred by the storm, begins to cool down again. There is no sudden shift, just a gradual settling. The storm, for all its motion, has passed, and now the land takes a breath. You can almost feel it exhale. Temperatures fall slightly, but noticeably. The air, once thick with humidity and charged energy, becomes lighter, more breathable. And the breeze, which may have been still before the storm, now returns with a soft, fresh rhythm. Grass releases the heat it held. Sidewalks and rooftops, once warmed by the sun, now glisten with rain and begin to let go of their warmth. You can feel the coolness radiate upward from the ground, like steam in reverse. It's not cold, it's comforting. This post-storm cooldown is part of the natural rhythm of convection. As clouds collapse and sunlight returns, often in dappled pieces through leftover mist, the earth slowly resets its balance. Leaves drip, pavement darkens, even the soil breathes easier. Birds return to their branches. Insects begin to hum again, and you may find yourself instinctively breathing more deeply, as if your own body is echoing the atmosphere's calming shift. This cooling also marks the end of the day's energy cycle. The sun, now lower on the horizon, casts longer shadows. Everything begins to stretch and settle: trees, clouds, even the sky's colour. For meteorologists, the Earth's surface temperature after a storm is an important measure of how much the environment has changed. But for us, in this soft moment, it's simply a feeling. A return to calm. You might feel it under bare feet, cool stone, wet wood, damp grass. You might smell it: clean air, softened by moisture, edged with earth. You might hear it, the slow resumption of daily sounds, but gentler somehow. The world isn't hurrying back to motion, it's gliding there. And this is the final act of the storm's quiet gift. A cooler earth, a calmer breath, a slower pace. Let yourself rest in it. There's nothing more to wait for. The weather has passed, the ground has cooled. You are right on time. There's a special kind of silence that follows a storm. Not emptiness, but fullness. The air feels different, more open, more alive, more kind. It's the after-rain air. You've probably felt it. Stepped outside after a storm and taken that first breath. It feels new, lighter, cooler, wrapped in clarity. That sensation has a name, though not always a single word. It's the result of rain scrubbing the atmosphere. During a storm, falling raindrops capture dust, pollen, smoke, and other particles suspended in the air. These tiny things, usually invisible, are gently collected and carried down to the ground. The result is literal. The air is cleaner, and the result is emotional. The air feels easier. Breathing becomes deeper. Movement feels slower. Colours appear more vivid. There's also a soft humidity that remains. Not sticky, not heavy, just a gentle, lingering moisture that holds the memory of the rain. It smooths the edges of everything, fills the space between buildings, between leaves, between thoughts. You might notice the smell of wet bark, of grass, of sidewalks that have cooled beneath the water. That scent, so familiar, yet so hard to describe, is part petrichor, part freshness, part something older, something ancestral. Post-rain air often carries a slight drop in temperature too. It may not be cold, but it's enough to drape a blanket over the land. Windows fog slightly, shadows return, and people move more quietly, as if the storm asked for a little reverence before it left. This air is not dramatic. It doesn't call attention to itself. It simply is. Still, soft, present. In the language of the atmosphere, it is the final note, the hum that follows the music, the space where sound was and still echoes. So, if the storm has passed, and the windows are misted, and the birds have begun to call again, open the door. Step outside, breathe, and let the post-storm air remind you of stillness. It's not just air, it's an afterglow, a thank you from the weather, and an invitation to begin again, but slower this time. Sometimes the sky blinks, a brief flicker behind the clouds, a pulse of light that disappears almost as soon as it arrives. No thunder follows, just silence. These are the silent flashes. Lightning, far away so far that its sound never reaches you, or high within the clouds contained, diffused, quiet. It may happen late at night. You might be gazing out the window, or walking beneath a porch roof, when the world glows for a moment, then fades. Was that lightning? Yes. But it's the sky's most peaceful version of it. These gentle flashes are often called heat lightning, though the name is a bit of a misnomer. The light has nothing to do with heat. It's simply lightning from a distant storm, too far for its thunder to travel. Because sound fades faster than light, we often see these flashes without ever hearing the storm they belong to. The bolt may be dozens of miles away, hidden behind hills or layered clouds, or the curvature of the earth. All that reaches us is the glow. The effect is dreamlike. The sky pulses softly, like a slow heartbeat. The light appears and vanishes without drama. It doesn't streak, it doesn't boom, it just breathes. You might see the outline of clouds catch the glow for a moment, or the underside of the sky light up in pale silver. It's subtle, but beautiful, like someone turning on a light in another room. then switching it off again before you look. These flashes don't demand a response. They don't need to be chased or studied. They just happen. And if you're lucky enough to notice one, that's all you need to do. Watch it, feel it, let it pass. They're reminders that not all lightning comes with noise, that not all power is loud, and that even storms have quiet moments of beauty tucked inside them. So if the sky blinks tonight, don't wonder too hard. Let it flicker, let it fade, and let yourself follow it into rest. Sometimes a single storm drifts beneath a vast open sky, not part of a line, not swept up in a front, just one small cloud, rising slowly and doing its quiet work in solitude. These are isolated thunderstorms, and while they may seem small against the broad canvas of the sky, they are every bit as elegant. From a distance, they look like sculptures, sky-bound towers rising quietly, surrounded by blue or grey. They may grow in the heat of the afternoon, fed by pockets of moisture and sunlight warming the ground below. One cloud begins to rise. It gathers, it thickens, it stretches upward, and suddenly the sky has made something all its own. These storms are often short-lived. Some last only 30 minutes or so, building, raining, and then fading as gently as they arrived. But for that time, they become the focal point of the entire sky. They're surrounded by space, by open air, by silence. And that contrast makes them all the more beautiful. From the ground, you might see a dark base forming, a distant curtain of rain trailing gently to earth. Above, the cloud balloons outward, touched by sunlight around its edges. It floats like a sky island, alone but full of quiet energy. Sometimes you can walk in sunshine while watching rain fall just a few fields away. You may even see a rainbow curving softly beside the cloud, a gentle arc connecting land and sky, born from the storm's own falling light. These storms rarely bring thunder to the whole horizon. Their lightning flickers quietly inside. Their rainfall cools the ground below, then evaporates upward, leaving only the scent of damp air and earth. And when they've finished, the cloud simply softens. The base lifts, the tower dissolves, gone without drama, gone without sound. Meteorologists observe these storms to understand localized convection, how a small shift in air can produce something momentarily powerful. But to us, they feel like a secret the sky briefly shares before taking it back again. So, if you ever look up and see a single thunderhead drifting across an open afternoon, watch it. Admire its simplicity, its softness, its solitude. It is proof that even the smallest storms have space in the sky. When we see lightning, it looks like a sudden flash, but in truth, each bolt follows a complex, invisible path, crafted moment by moment, shaped by temperature, humidity, pressure, and electric charge. A bolt doesn't choose the shortest route, it follows the easiest one. The atmosphere at any moment is full of channels, pockets, where air is slightly more or less conductive, where moisture clings or heat gathers. And when charge builds within a cloud, it begins searching for a way to release. That search carves a temporary corridor, electric thread through the sky. This thread is called a stepped leader. It moves downward in stages, small, rapid steps, each just a fraction of a second apart. Invisible to the human eye, this leader creates a path for the lightning to follow. Sometimes it never reaches the ground. Other times it does, and when it connects with opposite charge near the surface, the return stroke races back upward. That's the part we see, the bright, branching bolt that lights up the cloud and air around it. But the path itself, its twists, its forks, its branches, is sculpted by the sky. Moisture changes the path. Wind bends it. Temperature layers nudge it. Dust, pollution, and even the tiniest particles in the air can influence where the bolt moves. No two lightning paths are ever the same. Some are long and branching, lighting the sky in sprawling trees of silver. Others are brief, just a pulse down a narrow track. Some are cloud to ground. Others are within the cloud. But all are shaped by the same quiet conversation between sky and air. From a distance, the bolt may look random, but up close, if we could see the air as the lightning does, it would look like a network of invisible threads, guiding the light along the easiest way down. The bolt follows the path of least resistance, but it writes it with light. So next time you see a fork of lightning flash across the sky, know this: you're not just seeing energy, you're seeing a journey, one shaped by the moment, drawn by the air itself. And when it vanishes, the path closes again. The air forgets, and all is still. Not all storms arrive in the daylight. Many bloom quietly while we sleep far from our sight, yet close enough to shape the morning. These are nocturnal thunderstorm storms that form overnight, often between midnight and sunrise. While homes are quiet, while streets are still, while the world exhales into rest, they begin the same way as any storm: rising air, moisture, and temperature differences. But at night, a few extra things help them grow. The atmosphere cools slowly after sunset, but not evenly. Warm air lingers just above the surface, and as the upper atmosphere settles, gentle pockets of instability form. Jet streams shift slightly. Low-level winds quietly feed moisture into the sky, and there, in the dark, the clouds begin to rise. You may not see them form, but you might notice the distant flicker of light behind the curtains, or the faint sound of thunder as you drift in and out of sleep. These overnight storms rarely announce themselves with drama. They hum, they glow. Their lightning stays mostly within the clouds, gentle pulses that blink behind layers of vapor. Their thunder rolls low and long, soft enough to lull rather than startle. And outside, the world continues to rest. The trees sway slightly. The windows bead with moisture. The breeze finds new coolness. By morning, the storm has often passed. Clouds stretch thin. Pavement gleams with rain. And the air smells fresh, rinsed clean by something you slept through. Meteorologists track these nighttime systems carefully, especially during the warmer months, when they're more likely to form in clusters or lines. But for most of us, they're felt more than seen. A soft flicker through the blinds, a low rumble in the distance, a dream tinged with weather. So, if you've ever awakened to a world that feels quieter, fresher, or just slightly different, it may be because the sky was busy while you rested, working quietly, glowing softly, building something in the dark. Even after the storm has passed, long after the last raindrop has fallen, and the final rumble has faded into silence, something lingers. The sky remembers, not in words, not in thought, but in feeling. The atmosphere holds a kind of memory, a residual stillness, a quiet afterglow. You can sense it if you pause. Step outside after the storm. Listen. Breathe. The air is different, emptier, perhaps, or fuller. It has carried energy and released it. It has stretched and softened. And now it rests. But deep within it, where wind and moisture once mingled, where clouds rose and thunder bloomed, something faint remains. A trace. In meteorological terms, the atmosphere doesn't have memory the way a mind does, but processes leave behind changes, shifts in pressure, patterns in temperature, layers of altered humidity. Storms move on, but their footprints are left behind. The ground may still shimmer with water. Tree leaves may hold tiny reservoirs of rain. Birdsong may still be cautious. The clouds above, thinner now, may drift like pages left open after the last chapter has ended. And somewhere inside the silence, you can almost hear the echo of what came before. Not loud, not literal, but emotional. A hush shaped by what was once noise. Thunder is like that. It arrives with power and leaves with softness. It rumbles across valleys, slides between buildings, rolls across water. Then it's gone. But the body remembers. The air remembers. There's a scientific term for the way the atmosphere returns to balance after a storm. Re-equilibration. The heat and energy that built the storm are now diffused. The convection has stilled, the currents have quieted. It's as though the sky has taken a deep breath, and now begins the long, slow exhale. That breath out can last for hours or days, and during that time, the weather is more than just cleared. It's reflective, it's remembering. You might see it in the patterns of broken clouds, fragments that still swirl faintly in the direction the storm moved. You might feel it in the coolness of the breeze, residual drafts left behind by collapsing updrafts. You might sense it in the way birds return slowly, cautiously, testing the air before lifting into it again. And in the quietest moments, you might still hear it, that last low rumble. Maybe not in the air itself, but in memory, in the space where thunder once was. Just as the ocean remembers the tides, the sky remembers the storm. Not to hold on, but to let go gently, to absorb, to settle, to carry forward what was in a softer form. So, as we reach the end of our journey through thunder and light, let this final moment linger, not with sound, but with stillness. The storm has passed, the clouds are moving on. The sky, once loud, is quiet now. But inside that quiet, something rests, a memory of light, of motion, of weather that moved through but did not stay. And you, now like the atmosphere, can settle too. No more rumbles, no more questions, only rest. Let the thunder fade, let the silence remain, let the sky hold its memory, so you don't have to. And as our journey through the softened world of thunderstorms gently comes to a close, may the quiet flickers, the distant rumbles, and the steady rhythm of falling rain stay with you, like echoes in the corners of your mind, soft and unhurried. We've wandered through skies that glow without sound, clouds that breathe, and gentle storms that arrive like lullabies. Together, we've watched light unfold behind mist, listened to thunder roll through valleys, and felt the hush that follows every passing storm. I hope this brought you a moment of stillness tonight, a calm space to rest your thoughts, and a softened place to let go. If you'd like to support these dreamy weather explorations, you're always welcome to like or subscribe, but only if it feels peaceful to do so. There's never any pressure here, just an open sky, waiting quietly. Now, your breath can slow, the clouds can settle, the atmosphere can rest. You've arrived. Let the night carry you. Good night, peaceful dreams, and calm skies to you.